So today we look at NetSkeme hydraulic, and as you all aware, or for those that are not aware of NetSkeme hydraulic, if you just go to netskeme.com, you are able to sign up for a free trial or just log in if you already have an account. I will sign up with my username and password. It's not needed to do any software setup. I just recommend to use Chrome or Firefox, and then you are done. There are some settings that you can do, but they will show up as soon as you sign up. I will start, although I could open a HydroCAD diagram or a previously created NetSkeme or some AutoCAD drawings. I will start from scratch from a new diagram, taking an A3. For those that do not work in metric environment, just feel free to go to your preferences and set your units to imperial. Then you'll find templates in the imperial world. I will just go for an A3. My first exercise today is drawing a small hydrostatic transmission diagram. So I don't like the grid, so you can switch it off just by pressing F4, or down on the bar on the bottom side. On the left, you find some settings. So a grid, you can switch it off or on by using this command. On the left, we can load the symbol library, which is loading and is arranged in several folders. For those that are already familiar with HydroCAD, the structure is the same. And if you want, you can pin the Library Explorer so that it stays always available. You can zoom in and zoom out just by using your mouse. And let's start. So I will just need a variable pump. Let's say that it's lever operated. And I take this symbol. Well, not this one. Let me take a through shaft axial piston pump, but with 2 directions. On the opposite side of my hydrostatic transmission, I will need a motor. So I will go to my hydraulic motor, piston, and I'll just take this. Later, I'll show you how to create the custom symbols. Now I just take what I have available. So normally here we have a direct connection from the pump to the 2 sides of the motor. So we just make 2 connections. I'll make some movement. So I will just move this connection up and down. You will just select. If you move the symbol with the keyboard, then the symbol will move and the connection will update accordingly. Let's look for an electric motor. Let's insert a coupling set. And we need a charge pump. Usually that's a fixed displacement pump. So let's go and find a single displacement pump with external drain. We put it here. We can move item ID. So we just select the symbol and move the item ID where we want. If we want, we can just double click on a symbol and type in information. So let's call it the item ID. We want to name it P as pump, and that's the axial piston pump. That's the charge pump, so we call it CP, and that's our charge pump. And again, we need a coupling set, so we just copy. You can do just copy and paste, Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V, and that will work fine. We have separate drain, so instead of adding symbol for the drain, let me just quickly draw some lines. So this is our tank where we have all the drain, external drain, enter. So we go here. I see one question I will end up answering later. We have the charge pump taking oil from the reservoir, and the charge pump is supposed to provide oil, pressurized oil on the low pressure side of the hydrostatic transmission. We will need a check valve, 2 check valves for this. So you can search by model code. So although we search by model code in NetSkeme, we find only symbols in any case. So I just know that HydroForce for CV10-20 has a direct check valve. So I just quickly find a symbol by typing the model code. And I need another of these valves put here. And I can just, with a right click, flip it vertically and connect them. And we connect each side of these check valves. We then need a relief valve to keep a small pressure on this side. So again, we can search for a part number, RV10, a model code, and we take the relief valve. And let's rotate it to the right. So all the symbols that we have are ISO 1219 compliant. So in this case, and that's a new feature that we added. In this case, I want to highlight really the main parts of our transmission, which are the pump and the motor. So either we scale up the pump or we scale down the relief. Let me scale down this valve. So this is a new feature we introduced last week. And we can scale now the symbol. You just select the base point and type a factor, let's say 0.8. This is quickly making the symbol smaller. And we can also make a symbol larger, like the motor. Right click, scale, and we make it twice the size. This is not changing any behavior for connection lines. Still, connection lines will be routed properly. We just quickly can change the size. So now it's easier to fit a diagram into a larger or smaller paper. Let's go directly to tank with this relief valve. Unlike HydroCAD, where we have a lot of attributes that we can populate and display here, if you wanted to type a text like a setting, you just use the text dialog. And let's say this is 15 bar. Usually we have 2 anti-shock valve on both sides to prevent damages to the circuit. So we can use always the relief valve symbol and put one here and the other there, and we can just flip it vertically and do all the connection. Pressure line from 1 to the line and 2 to the line. We can move the symbols to left and right just by using the arrow key, or you can use the right click, move, specify a start point and end point. There is a question regarding jumpers. So currently in NetSkeme, we always display jumpers. In HydroCAD, we have the options to display or not jumpers. We find it easy to read in the diagram, so we create always jumper. We don't have now an option to remove jumper from connection lines, although technically we can do, and we record it as an enhancement. Now, you don't have that possibility. There is no setting on that. Although everything you do here, if you have HydroCAD, you quickly open the diagram in HydroCAD and then it will remove jumpers if you want or not. I may show it later. Normally, we also need another valve, which is a valve supposed to take some oils to cool the oil. So it's we find it under the screw and cartridge valve, non-solenoid operated. It's a hot oil shuttle valve. so-called. Usually it takes pressure from the both sides, and it has a closed position. This is okay. Let me rotate it to the right. So this valve, when the pressure higher on the top side, will move the spool and bring the low side to port 3. So this is usually used to go into a heat exchanger to cool the oil temperature. So we normally have this situation. We always need a relief valve, small relief valve. And let us make some room. It's very easy. Just use the arrow key and you are done. No need to run too many commands. And to make connections, we just select the connection type. If you use the wrong connection type, you just select the line, connection type, and change it to the reservoir. So here normally we have a filter, so let's find a filter. And we put it here. The connection will not break automatically. You just grab the endpoint and do a connection again. So we have a filter, and then we enter into the heat exchanger. So let's find a symbol for a cooler. We flip it upside down. Although the grid is not visible, as you see, I am just moving with the arrow key, and the grid, the snap to grid is working, so it keeps the symbol aligned. Again, I want to make some room, and here it is, our diagram. So I see a question. So what happens if I lose connections to my internet? So as you see, I never click save, and I don't really care about saving. Let's say that I lose connection, I close my browser. And then if I go back to netskeme.com, log in, sign in, it will say that there was a session running. So yes, I'm going to enter. And now here it is where I had left. If you suddenly lose the connection, you may lose maybe the last couple of seconds of job, because here we are saving every command. So there is a remote possibility that you lose really the last action that you make. But so the drawing document is saved live in the cloud. And there is only one working document here. If you want, you can just download the drawing as a DXF, PDF, or DWG. I recommend you use DWG because later we could open the same drawing and do some changes to it. So let me download. Well, as you see, this is another new feature that it's taking a default name in NetSkeme 1. Now we have slightly changed. We have a title block where you can fill in. So let's say that this is our Hydrostatic Transmission Circuit, HTC. The document type is sample diagram. Document type is just a sample created by myself. This title will be added automatically to the drawing file. So now when you save as DWG, this will be the HTC .dwg file. So now it's preparing, and the file name will be HTC DWG, which you can save wherever you want. And let me go into my folder, 2021 webinars, and I make a new folder called NetSkeme webinar. If you have HydroCAD, and let me just open in the meantime. while I do something else. So let's say that for us, everything we have here, all this is one unique part number. So in this case, when we make a part list, so the part list is made automatically by NetSkeme. So we insert the part list, and this will be taking all the information that we have assigned to each component in the drawing. So now NetSkeme is adding the part list on the top left. I didn't put any molecule and description, so this is empty. But if you go into a symbol and say that's a motor, and that's our anti-shock valve, and so on, then you can just update the part list. You click again, insert part list, and this will apply the same text to all the other part list in the drawing. Something else that will work is that automatically, if you have the same model code, so let's say that this is the Danfoss PC018 valve, let's say 04 valve. Now, and with the same anti-shock. Now the part list will group identical items in the drawing. If they have the same model code, this should have been doing so. It's not. It is. So description and part and model code must be the same. There was a blank space at the end. Usually when you have identical components, it's easier really to do a copy and paste. So you delete a symbol, you do one, copy and paste, and then flip it as you want. Now they are identical, so they will be grouped together. If you don't like the numbering, you just reassign it. Item ID, it will go from left to right. And now we just run again the part list. And now item 9 and 10, they are grouped by identical item ID. Let me move down. Now let's say that this group for me is only one unique symbol with one part number. So in NetSkeme, we don't have now the possibility to tell the system that this is one unique item. Those are 4 items in the part list, but we can build a symbol. In terms of drawing command, if we want, we can group items in the sense that it's easier to select and move. So now we don't need to select all to move them, just we select the group. But this is not making one unique part number for the system. And of course, we can ungroup items. But we can build symbols. So let's say that for us, this is a unique group. So let's build a symbol with those items. So we just copy, Control-C, and we enter in the My Symbol library mode. So My Symbol library mode is a drawing canvas where we can build our new symbol. So I paste my symbols. In this case, I want to explode them. I don't need so I don't need them as symbols. I can explode them. Explode. And this one as well. Explode. I need an item ID. So this one is the position of the item ID, where it will be placed in the drawing. Usually it's better in a symbol not to have connection lines in a symbol, so it's better to, so here I just simplify my geometry. I don't need to have it large. I can simply make it smaller. So let me select. Always with arrow keys, it's much easier to work by using those items. I need some ports. 2 and 4 are okay. I need an additional port. Let's call it tank, so we can add it as a connection point. That's our tank port. And we can put it here. And that's our new symbol. If we want, we can put a boundary on it. That's not a bad idea. Usually when we make a group of symbols, also the ISO says that we should put a solid line yellow. So edit color, and that should be yellow. And that's my new symbol. 4 and 2. Well, actually, usually the ISO says also that the connection point should extend outside the boundary, unless it is a surface mounted valve. So I like to have it this way. We can define the insertion point of our symbol. So the insertion point is defined here, insertion point, and we select which point of our block is will be the insertion point. Usually it's a port. Now we can save the symbol. The symbol will not be saved to the symbol will not be saved to the online database, but will be saved to your local machine. And if you want to save, you just do the save as, save symbol. In this case, NetSkeme is creating a new file, which will be a PNG file with the geometry embedded. And you can put this file wherever you want in your library. I have a library in my Dropbox, which I share with my colleagues. And let's say this is, let me create a new folder called Hydrostatic Transmission System. And that's my hot oil shuttle group, and we save it. So as you see, it's saving as a PNG file. If we go into the folder, then we see the preview. And in this PNG, we also store the DWG geometry of the symbol, because we are creating a DWG entity in the cloud. So we have only one file containing the image and also the DWG information. Now, if we want to use this symbol in the drawing, we exit from build mode. We don't need to save, we already saved, but we could, in this mode, do everything we need, like new symbols, new groups, new entities. And so no, not needed, I already saved. And now I could just insert, instead of from the library, I can insert from my symbol library. So my symbol library is opening my repository, my PC repository. So if I go to my NetSkeme library and go into my hydrostatic transmission symbols, I can just double click and place my symbol in the drawing. And that's my system. So now this has a unique item ID, so it will have a unique part number. And so I could replace in my system and do all the connections needed. Of course, now if I update the part list, some items will be removed. And that's item 16. Remember, if you don't want to have a blank space in the part list, you just double click on a symbol and specify your molecule, manufacturer, and description. I have opened Hydro, so to answer to that question about jumpers, yes or not, if we open that diagram with HydroCAD, so if I go and go to my D 2021 webinars NetSkeme HTC, This is really a DWG file. And now the jumpers are not there because of setting in the DWG file. If you want jumper, this is controlled by HydroCAD. So options, connections, jumpers, yes or no. So we can set jumpers to, let's say, 2 mm or remove jumpers. But again, this may come to NetSkeme as it is ISO 1219 driven. We may add this possibility to decide if jumpers are applied or not. I understand that the ISO is saying that the jumpers should not be needed, but in general, when people read the diagram, it's much easier to understand how connections are made with jumpers. So since it's so easy, they come without any extra effort, I like to see the jumpers in the drawing. But if we need to represent a manifold, we usually have the envelope, and we can put external ports, and we can select from different size of flange or BSP ports. And we can specify a port name, let's say 3x4 code 62, and we double click and we position the symbol in the envelope, and the envelope is smart like actually it's happening in HydroCAD. And here we can just do copy and paste, and well, actually here it's even smarter than HydroCAD. It has some techniques that we can make it better because we have more freedom to program in this software. So when you need to represent a manifold, you put the boundary. You can search. That's an NG6 valve or NG10 as you want, and we can connect. Tank line. As you see, if the connection is easy, you can just grab the endpoint and connect it to a different port, and automatically it will reroute. Also, if you rotate the symbol, the connection will try to help with not overlapping to each other. Yeah, I see another comment about the dots or jumpers and no jumpers. And yes, I stated that my personal preference is seeing jumpers. I see most of customer and most of the diagrams I see, they show jumpers. And yes, actually it's a preference. It's easier to read also because we need to remember that sometimes the drawings are just copies, scan, PDF, dirty. So when you see a jumper, it's clear that there is no connection, and if not, but it's clear that if there is a dot, there is a connection. If there is no dot, then there is no connection. But sometimes it's not so easy to understand if a connection is there without a jumper. So it's my preference, and yes, but ISO 1219, if you comply to ISO, then there is no jumper. Jumper is never mentioned in the drawing diagram.